Hey everyone, welcome to another one of our series, the training series. Today we're talking about Galvan. Joining me is Adam Sharp. Adam, you want to briefly introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So my name is Adam Sharp. I am a physician and a health services researcher by training, and have been super excited to get involved in Galvan as the CEO for the last couple of years.
Okay. What is high level? What is Galvan and why should we care?
Yeah. Really great question. Galvan is evolving as we have launched a health and wellness blockchain that is now run separate from Galvan as part of the decentralized governance framework. And Galvan is a company that is using blockchain technology to help people to own their health and wellness and to give them tools to be their healthiest, best self.
Okay. So today in this video, there are multiple facets of Galvan. Today, we're just going to focus on the mental well-being, the mental health aspect of Galvan. So before we get into what it is, what it does, let's talk about the problem. Why is mental health such a big issue in 2023?
This is a hard question to answer so briefly because it is such a dilemma. In North America, it has been called one of the greatest health challenges ever. Part of the reason is it carries a lot of stigma. Mm-hmm. It can be difficult to diagnose if people aren't looking for it. It can be manifest in different ways, from just poor health to not feeling well. And based on all the studies that are looking at adults, children, adolescents, there's some crazy studies in university students that may indicate that 2/3 to 3/4 of those students have mental health challenges if we look and ask about it.
So in your opinion, or is there data to prove this, is this a new trend, or has this always been the case and we just haven't measured it? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so it's a good question. It's always the question is it we're looking for it more? Mm-hmm. Is that why we're seeing it? Right. Or is it that it's actually increasing? And I think it's both. Fortunately, we are using tools in the United States. For example, we've begun to hear specific recommendations about screening everyone when they go to their primary care physician for depression or anxiety. So we're screening more than ever, but compared to old studies that were screening, there's also a higher prevalence. So it's a combination of both.
And are the most common symptoms, diagnoses, are we talking depression, the number one, anxiety? What are if you had to list them?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I think from my perspective, it's less about which one's higher. They're both problems. And I think part of what we want, the reason why we started with mental health as part of one of the things that we are looking at, is because it isn't if you have mental health challenges, it's when. Wow. Now, to be clinically diagnosed with these things, which is not what we're not attempting to replace physicians. We want to be a tool that helps people to interact with them appropriately. But the reality is this is something that all of us worry about. I think myself included. I am very fortunate to not have clinical diagnoses of these two things, but I feel down. I get stressed. And so that's part of what we're trying to attack with Galvan and the blockchain, is helping people to actually manage this and own it in a way that's responsible.
Okay, and we'll get into showing how Galvan is doing that in just a second. We'll turn on the TV and do a quick demo. Yeah. But before we get to that, we talked about the size of the problem, how prevalent it is. What's the cost of the problem?
It is difficult to assess the cost. And let me give you my personal example. As an emergency physician, often we would have people who would come in for abdominal pain or chest pain, which are the two most common causes of prompting people to go to the ER. Often depression and anxiety can manifest in a million ways, from dizziness to headaches to pain. And so it's far easier as a physician if you're trying to help someone, if they come in and say, I feel depressed. Well, then we start thinking about depression. But we manifest mental health stress and or mood challenges in a variety of ways, which is part of why we need tools to be able to address it on a regular basis. on a regular basis because it can manifest in so many different ways.
What role does stigma play in the solution?
Stigma plays a huge role in so many ways. Number one, in just acknowledging that I don't feel well, and I want to do better. And so as a society, we don't want to feel depressed. We don't want to say I'm depressed. It's almost like I've classified myself as depressed and then I'm never getting out of that,
Right.
which is not true. There's a variety of ways for us to help manage that. And so the stigma plays a huge role. And part of this is trying to help everyone recognize that if you personally don't have mental health problems, almost assuredly you have friends and family who do. And the reality is how do you know if you've never looked? It's kind of like high blood pressure. If you never checked your blood pressure, you don't know if you have high blood pressure. And that's what we're trying to help with part of the tools that we're offering with Galvan.
So I've seen Galvan's use of the term mental wealth. What's the difference between mental health and mental wealth, and why is there a distinction?
Yeah, so it's I think we're trying to get away from it's all or nothing. Either you're depressed or you're not. It's something that it's interesting that we want to just be in one category or the other. We always want to be healthy, and that's great. But mental wealth is really identifying the fact that it is our greatest asset. If we don't have our mental health, if we don't have our physical health, then other things just don't matter as much. And so it's also a little bit of a play on wellness. We aspire to have wellness, and I think there's a variety of ways that wellness is far more important than health. We all want to have health, and we also know that we're going to be born, and as everyone's already heard, death and taxes are the two things we will not avoid. And so it's not that we won't pass at some point, it's that we want to be our best self and be able to be well and enjoy the things and the people that we love being around until that day comes.
Okay, so let's fire up this TV. We're gonna do a live tech demo, which is always fun. Let's see if it'll work. The HDMI connection, not the app. So show us what the solution is that you guys have come up with for the mental health.
Yeah.
check-in.
So we have 3 pillars: mind, body, and soul. And we want to talk a little bit about mind here. And you'll see this was my last check-in, and I just want to do a check-in for you. I want you to see how simple this is. So I hit today's check-in and ask me, how are you feeling today? When you do it for the first time, there will be a little bit more instruction. But those of us that have already done this, I'm just going to start recording. And as you can see here, as it goes around our little head with the heart in it, it's tracking my voice. And I don't have to say anything in particular. In fact, I could speak another language. And yo puedo hablar en español porque podría hacer esto. But the reality is it doesn't matter. It works in other languages. And then after we've spoken for 20 seconds, 20 to 40 seconds, we just hit submit. And it says hang tight. And it tells you that it's using our AI technology to analyze 2,550 different biomarkers in our voice. And that's why it doesn't matter what language you speak, because it's using biomarkers that have to do with your voice inflection and your tone and the space between words and 2,500 other things. Sometimes if we're plugged into other devices, we have a challenge with the reading. Oh, we got one. Perfect. So here's our wellness check-in. So the good news, this looks like I am on the favorable side. So as you can see with mood, we got smiley face on the right, and stress, we got smiley face on the left. So you can see I'm actually a little bit above my average.
Is that this gray part here?
Yeah, so you can see kind of the grayish part here, which is my normal. And so when it shows understanding your results and it gives you other information. But if I happen to be actually in a lower than normal mood or higher than normal stress, we give what we call what nows. Like, so what do I do with his information? And that's part of, so this is the diagnostic tool that uses AI, but we also give really useful and evidence-based tools that people can use in order to do something about their stress and their mood immediately.
What kind of tools?
Yeah, so my favorite one, and you may watch this video online that we love, is a man who talked about how he was having high stress and bummer mood. And one of the things is helping you sing. We know that I have a terrible voice. I have the worst voice of all time. But there is something about singing, Take Me Out to the Ball Game, that makes you smile, either because you're a good singer or because you're a bad singer. Doesn't really matter. But that instantly, we know, based on studies, that doing those small things, giving somebody a hug. So reminding you that if you go find someone and give them a hug, you feel better. Now, why doesn't really matter, but reminding you that that's something that you have within your control that you can take care of at that moment is part of what Galvan's trying to do, is just really empower people with things that we know. Everything from smiling, whether you feel happy or not, to chewing gum, which has been shown to decrease stress, to meditation, to breathing exercises. All things just easy reminders, things that we know, but frankly, in the moment when we're stressed is often not what we're thinking about.
So how often am I supposed to do what you just did?
Yeah, as often as you like. So we have it set currently, so once a day for you to check in. Mood, stress can go up and down, and we know that mood shouldn't change as drastically, but we have it set so that you can do it once a day. And we have currently, and again, our community can vote to change this at any point, but as we learn and go, this is a first in my experience that we've given a tool that usually someone would have to go and it's been tested against other things, but I won't get into that now. But the reality is this is something that daily you check in. We reward you for doing it 3 times a week with digital rewards, and it's just a common check-in for people to see how they're doing.
And talk to me about the specific markers that you're measuring. I saw, is it mood, stress, and energy?
Yeah.
How do I then take that information and do something with it?
Yeah. So energy falls into our soul category, and I won't talk too much about that, but energy is something that we can now objectively look at speed, power, and dynamics. We have energy, trillion-dollar industries looking at energy drinks and things to boost energy. We can actually now objectively track your energy, which is awesome. So it's an outcome that we think I've enjoyed looking at, and we think our members certainly have, and you will too as you look at it. With regard to mental health, we look at mood and we look at stress. Mm-hmm. Those we are not trying to replace clinical physicians or people who have mental health providers that are helping them. But the reality is it's been shown and tracked to be similar in its accuracy as the healthcare questionnaires that people now recommend and large organizations recommend for depression and for anxiety and an assessment with a physician. And so these are very accurate tools, as accurate, and having done healthcare research, as accurate as medicine gets. It's not perfect,
right?
But there's a lot of variability between physicians, between clinics, and time of day and different things, but extremely accurate and in the palm of your hand, which is really nice.
Awesome. And what's the technology behind it? Is there science that you can talk about?
Yeah, so plenty of science. So this is a partner that we've had, which is Canary Voice Recognition, and Canary has done for a very long time, has used really world experts, international experts in voice recognition, and it's continually getting better. As with any good AI, it is continually being assessed to make it more and more accurate and more relevant. There's huge use cases down the road of which are future, what we showed today is mood and stress and energy, which are very, very useful tools. But there's a variety of other things that are being tested that you can test through the voice. Not all things are as accurate as through the voice, but a variety of neurologic conditions like Huntington's disease and other things have been shown to be helpful where, again, we're not making a clinical diagnosis, but we can say, hey, you ought to go talk to your doctor about this thing. Often those may be things like, things that are difficult to assess and often too late, like dementia or different areas. So those are future state things, but really cool tools and really cool, exciting things to come down the road.
So it's a tool that we didn't have yesterday that we have today that is helping us to be aware and then track and then act upon.
Yeah. The reality is we know whether it's setting goals or tracking anything, it requires a little bit of effort. And I think we should each ask ourselves, when is the last time you went and evaluated your mental health?
Yeah. It's a great question.
If we're doing great, well, we know we're doing great. If we're doing terrible, well, we know we're doing terrible. And then there's like the 99% of days in between. And which direction are we headed? And that's why we give you averages, and that's why we give you little pieces of information so that hopefully before you get to the catastrophic side of things on stress or mood, you've done something before you got to there. And that's what this tool does, is a diagnostic tool in your pocket This is something that's really novel, not just for mental health, but for health and wellness in general. Usually you have to go somewhere or go do something. Most all of us have our own device, and so all you need to do is, really have a smartphone that you can talk into in order to make this work. And that's really the part of the magic is it's up to you.
So we talked earlier about stigma, about how that's a big deal, that people aren't doing anything in a lot of cases because of stigma. How does this app and the gamification and sharing functions help to break those barriers down?
I think the idea here is it's nothing to be scared of. Like, everybody should be doing this. As I mentioned, I'm one of those people. I'm fortunate that through genes or whatnot, I haven't been diagnosed with depression or anxiety, but I still benefit from this. And I still benefit from tracking how I'm doing and reminding myself of the things that I know but are easily forgotten. So part of the stigma is this isn't like people over here who have mental health problems and people over here who don't. Like, we all have mental health
It's a
things.
spectrum.
It's a spectrum of where we are. And these tools help us to make sure that we're doing everything in our control to be the best mental health possible, regardless of where you are on the spectrum.
So talk about how the Galvan blockchain rewards people using this specific part of the app.
Thanks for bringing that up. Galvan has helped to launch the blockchain. The blockchain is owned and operated by our node owners. And that's part of our model that we think is really special, is you and those that own nodes are the people who run the blockchain. And we're excited about that and excited to give tools like our health and wellness app, our G Plus as we call it, in order for people to show proofs of action of things. I know we're not getting into it now, but like exercise, tracking your mental health and wellness, and then passing that on to other people. We've also increasingly expanded our ability to do challenges, personal challenges for yourself, or set goals, or invite your friends to do challenges. So you can actually make sure that you're checking in with your friends and then share how you're doing. And so that's part of why the community and the blockchain is the perfect setting for us to do what we're doing.
So every time somebody does a mental health check-in, they get rewarded with eyes?
So really good question. So because we have a charter that's owned and operated, as we say, the DGF, the decentralized governance framework, currently it's 3 times a week. So you'll get digital rewards 3 times a week, and anything more than that is for your own personal benefit. If the community decides they want to change that to every day of the week, we could do that tomorrow. And so that's part of this decentralized ownership framework that we're excited to be part of, because we can evolve and adapt and change to whatever is needed from the community.
Perfect. Last question in this segment. So we've talked about individual use. What are opportunities for organizations to use this mental health check-in?
Really great question. All companies, all corporations, all leaders of those groups and entities want people to have their best mental health, period. Right. And that part is universal. And the question is what are those companies doing to optimize that? And I think often the question is, oh, well, we put some snacks in the snack bar. We got water for everybody. That's great.
Ping pong.
I'm not dissing those things. Those things are still good. But if you really want to help, then you need to give tools for people to actually be able to track and manage it. And I think whether that's participating in this from a business perspective, because you want all your employees to be able to track this, I think that's a wonderful opportunity. And it's something they can take with them, because it's something that the individual should own and operate. Your mental health and the diagnoses of such should be in your power. And that's what the blockchain community helps us to provide for this.
Perfect. I think that was a great overview of the mental health aspects of Galvan. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on our next course.